T.B.Photo X1.5 to FX, and welcome back to another video. Well, I know it has been a little while since I uploaded anything here to YouTube, but life's been busy and I've been busier. But anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna start off with a little bit of news and what has been happening in my photography journey thus far. Well, first off, yeah. A couple of weekends now in a row I've actually been going to the C.C.Pub. This is they're on their final stretch. They're on the home stretch for their final curtain, unfortunately. So the 27th they will have their going out of business extravaganza, whatever you want to call it. They're gonna start at 1400 hours or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and go all the way to midnight with live music events and so on. It's Saturday the 27th yeah, the 27th of October, and unfortunately I will be working that day, but I might be able to get it off and go and do some photography there. It would be really cool anyway. Yeah, and furthermore, being a little bit local, or rather hometown patriotic today, drinking Gevalia coffee in a named mug. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, and I've been photographing a couple of acts that had their final on-stage live performance for the C.C.Pub, which, yeah, Collision and Mass Diversity, among others. The interesting thing was, and also, yeah, Nameless Few. The thing is, I've done a video with Nameless Few, and I showed a little bit about their music and so on. Really brilliant. They call themselves American classic rock or American hard rock. You know, it's basically electric guitar, electric bass, drums, a singer who also plays a little bit of acoustic guitar. But really interesting, and I think that you might know it by now. It's the Tokina 28-70 and the Sigma 10-20 that I use the most, and the Apteka stereo shotgun microphone. The interesting thing is also, excuse me, during the last performance that I'm gonna put out fairly soon, actually, the performers who did, you know, in both Collisionen and Mass Diversity. First off, Mass Diversity had a horn section, so when that started, it felt like I was listening to the second coming of Chicago, almost. But that's beside the point. The thing was that they actually recorded the live performance through the mixing console, so I did some videography about that concert, or both those acts. The opening act was Collisionen, and the main act was Mass Diversity. But the thing was that they recorded the sound through the mixing console as stated, and I did some video, so we are planning to maybe do a little bit of a sync thing where we sync up my video to their audio. So that is a little bit of a collab in the future that I really look forward to. Moreover, also this past weekend, I'm recording this on a Monday. It's the 22nd of October. Monday 22nd of October when I'm recording this, 2018. This past weekend I had a 3-day weekend, so I went home to Gävle to the parents, and it turned out that a cousin of mine that was very into graffiti and street art during the late 1990s and the early 21st century, it turns out that a artist friend of his, painter and so on, has done with the local government a collaboration effort where certain passing tunnels and so on in the town that was usually just made up of dull concrete is going to become street artworks, that they are legal graffiti paintings in these. They are partitioned off into sections that is supposed to represent different generations or different epochs of graffiti or street art, and one of my cousins were actually invited to be one of those artists that did a partition or a part of one of these tunnels. So I took it upon myself to document a little bit about his journey there, so it's a little bit of street photography. It was completely impromptu. So it was a little bit interesting there to document a little bit of a hometown art scene or contemporary art scene. So it might be some images of that up here on the wall and so on, you know, here. But yeah, anyway. And the next day, actually, Sunday, actually continued in the same kind of deal, because people who are visiting Sweden and the capital of Stockholm might want to know that the National Museum, Nationalmuseet, on Skeppsholmen and so on, they are actually reopened after a couple of years of renovation. The problem for this museum, the National Museum of Sweden, was that the areas they had for display was not adequate anymore for the type of works of art being displayed. So they have had a couple of years, almost half a decade I would guess, where they actually renovated the entire museum. So the museum is reopened, the National Museum. It's a couple of floors actually of different exhibition halls and so on. It's a complete maze and so on, but the amount of artwork that is on display, both national artists from around Sweden in different years and so on, different epochs, and internationally acclaimed artists are on permanent display. And now when the museum has had its grand reopening, it is actually, and there is no entrance fee. It's actually free to go visit this museum for the time being. And anybody out there in YouTube land who's watching this and is planning to visit Stockholm in the near future, I would really, really recommend a visit to the National Museum. It is a real cultural treasure trove of international and national art. So yeah, that's a little bit of what has happened. And yeah, now we are gonna go over to a different part. Yeah, now for something completely different, as John Cleese would have said. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, this is a little bit of a keyring I bought on eBay a couple of weeks ago. It's remove before flight keyring and so on. And 2 weeks ago, I did a teaser trailer for a little bit of a new camera acquisition. Me being Swedish and so on, and I know that 2019, next year, is gonna be marking, I think, the 50th anniversary of the first moon landing. And for all of you guys, conspiracy theorists out there that claim that we never went to the moon and so on, jog on. I don't want to hear it. I'm so fed up with it. Go flat Earth a little bit. I think that you're basically belong in the same camp, in my opinion, and I will stand by that. I believe in science and fact. Yeah, but anyway, what I started to wonder was that, being Swedish and so on, I thought that I am gonna get a Hassie. It's the time has come. I have actually gotten myself a Hasselblad. Yeah, spoiler alert, I've got myself a Hasselblad, but I'm not gonna show you in this video because I wanted this to be a little bit of a sequential, you know, a little bit of a series about me acquiring this little kit, because I'm taking a little bit of artistic liberties and so on when it comes to this. First off, I'm reading this book actually that is a little bit of inspiration. Failure is not an option. It's the autobiography of NASA flight director Gene Kranz. If anybody who has seen the movie Apollo 13 starring Tom Hanks, Bill Paxton, Kevin Spacey, Kevin Bacon, and so on. And Ed Harris is actually the actor that portrays Gene Kranz in that movie. But this is the real person's autobiography. Really brilliant read, in my opinion, and a little bit of the inspiration behind this little kit that I'm putting together. So this is also a little bit of a hint towards it. But here we're gonna see here how we're gonna do this. A couple of videos on YouTube that I want to point out when it comes to both Hasselblad and photography and NASA. First off, if you want to have a brilliant little overview of the Hasselblad system in a very English sort of way, I would really recommend, I'm going to put a link in the description below. It is Peter Elgar, a really nice gentleman from Brentwood in Essex, who is, I basically think he is known as Pentax Pete, an older gentleman, and he has a Hasselblad system that he had a really brilliant video going over all the quirks of the system and so on. So really recommend his video. I'm going to put a link in the description as stated. And the second one that got me a little bit fired up is that if you want to get your Savage on, that is Adam Savage, the former Mythbusters co-host. He's now having this channel on YouTube called Tested, with a couple of other brilliant geeks of all strides. He talks about him going through cosplays and so on. And what I started to notice was that he loves boxes. I mean, he has done a box for, he's a huge Blade Runner fan. So he has done a Blade Runner blaster case for that replica and so on. And he also bought this microscope, this binocular microscope that he made a white box for, and he made it like a NASA equipment box, and that got me really fired up and interested. And I thought that if I'm gonna go a little bit of the route what I'm doing with this Hasselblad setup, I think I want to do something similar to that box, for doing a camera bag, so to speak, for this Hasselblad. And I started to look about a little bit about camera bags for Hasselblad and so on, and they are frighteningly expensive. So I started to look at some second-hand stores here in Uppsala, and I think I actually hit the jackpot when it came to a future camera bag with some modifications that I have up here in the little gray cells. Yeah, for $37, 370 svenska kronor, 370 Swedish kroner, I got this. This leather case. This is like a pilot bag from the 70s or 80s, something like that. But I think they didn't look that much different in the 60s and so on. You know, with these, old school locks on the front and so on. But what really sold me on this bag was this little emblem on the front here. Yeah, here. It actually says here, and I'm gonna take this in Swedish, Luftfartsverket. And this is basically the logo. They're not around anymore. They have actually been incorporated in what is now known as I think it is Trafikstyrelsen, Trafikverket or something like that. I don't have that government agency in my head, the name of it in my head. But basically, up until the 21st century, Sweden had a different government agency for maritime, for aviation, roadworks and railworks. So 4 government agencies that were like in public and what should we say, corporate, all types of transport by air, land and sea. And Luftfartsverket was the government agency that was tasked to direct all types of aeronautical it's basically the aeronautical safety board for Sweden, or it was actually. So this case has been used by someone from the Swedish Aviating Safety Board. So that made it really interesting for me to get this bag, because it can be a little bit of a collab between government agencies across the pond. Because if NASA would have any type of collaboration with Sweden during the Cold War and involving space travel, this would be basically the Swedish equivalent, or the Swedish agency that they would have dealings with. So that's a little bit interesting in my opinion. So this is going to become a Hasselblad camera bag of my own design, and has a little bit of scuff marks and so on. It's made of leather as far as I can tell, and it really tells a little bit of a story. And I have some memorabilia and so on that I will put in this, and I have some pieces of gear that I have really, thought out a little bit of a layout in this bag. So that's a little bit of an additional teaser for my upcoming series about Hasselblad. But I think that's all for now, dear viewers. Yeah, I think that's all for me for now, and you will see me in the near future, hopefully, with some new shenanigans when it comes to my photography journey. But all in all, this is all for me for now. As always, this is Tobias Bergström from T.B.Photo X1.5 to FX. I'd like to see you guys in the next video, and as always, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. So, yeah, take care from now on. Bye.